I've never been a classroom person. I've never really fit that kind of a mold. I've never been able to sit in a box and listen to one person trying to tell me what to do. It's always been a struggle for me. And so because of that, I had a tendency to, tune some things out. I wouldn't listen at some key points, and things would get lost in translation. And this would lead to some issues, some embarrassing issues later on in life, particularly when we were going over anatomy in class. When I was a kid, I thought that the word pregnant meant stupid. And so you can imagine my shock when I was told that my mom was suddenly pregnant, because I didn't really know how that worked and how that happened. So I went to my friends the next day and I was like, you guys, my mom is pregnant. I think I'm going to be next. I'm not really sure how this spreads. And so they told me, Alex, don't be silly. Only girls can get pregnant. Well, I thought that was a really sexist thing to say. I was like, I've met plenty of pregnant men in my day. I'm sure we get pregnant all the time. But then, my little brother came and that kind of sorted itself out. But the reason I tell that story is that really, to me, epitomizes my learning experience. I was just trying to get from deadline to deadline, test to test. I wasn't really looking deeper into the issues. I just heard the word pregnant and thought what I thought it was and associated it with it, which led to embarrassing results. And so I was left with this hole. I was unsatisfied with my classroom experience. I needed more. I needed to learn more stuff. So I tried to fill it. I tried fencing. I went to summer camp. I tried basketball. I tried talking to girls. None of these things brought any satisfaction whatsoever, but it was worth a try. At least I needed something to do. And then when I was 13, I was fortunate enough to first try stand-up comedy. I was at a summer camp with my friends. And I'd always been known to tell a funny joke or a story, and I love to laugh. So it seemed like the next logical step for me to go into stand-up comedy. And so on a dare, they told me, to go up there and maybe tell a couple jokes. So I did. I went up and I did 2 really mediocre minutes of stand-up. I talked about babysitters, I think, because I was 13 and I wanted to be topical, I guess. But the thing is, while it wasn't the best I've ever done, that was the moment for me where I really realized that learning is not a classroom thing. Learning is every day of your life. Because that first time I did stand-up, I realized that I had uncovered an art form that I had just barely scratched the surface of. And that passion and that need for learning was finally satiated. I started to study more often than not, Bill Cosby, Jerry Seinfeld, Bob Newhart, those people, while maybe I should have been studying for some tests. Sorry, Dad. But, that's just where my mind was at. And eventually, my worlds started to collide. I was writing jokes in my classes. I was writing my jokes at lunch. I was pitching jokes to my teachers, whether they knew it or not. And it just sort of kind of evolved from there. And with that realization of how important stand-up was to me, I also realized how important my classes were. Because, now that I'm studying English, now I can realize, okay, this will help my diction, this will help my vocabulary in comedy and in other fields. When I'm studying history, I can be like, okay, well, now I can refer back to other things. I can make clever references in my jokes. And then when I'm in math, it's like, okay, well, I'm miserable, but misery is funny, so I can use that later. And what I also learned, about myself is that with comedy, all these menial thoughts that I had in my head, they finally had a reason. There was a reason I was thinking these ridiculous things, and I could finally start saying some of these things. Like, there was one day I was driving down the road, and I saw this man. He was driving the other way, and he had his hat on backwards, but he was looking into the sun. So he held his hand up to his face like this. And I thought, this is what's wrong with our society in America today. This is style over substance, completely epitomized right here. This man has the means to stop being inconvenienced by the sun with a simple turn 180 degrees of his hat. But rather than doing so, he would prefer to seem attractive to clearly all of the women that can see him when he's going 40 miles an hour, and refrains from keeping his hat backwards. Maybe I'm giving this man too much credit. But what I really think is, whenever I feel down about myself or I feel like I have failed, I will think, at least I know how and why I should use a hat. That's a big thing I hear when I talk about my experiences in comedy. A lot of people are like, how can you do that? What is it like, to fail, to not have anybody laugh at your jokes, to just stand here in awkward silence? And frankly, it sucks. It really does. But really what comedy taught for me, because I dealt with so many of those awkward silences, is that failure is the first step towards improvement. You've got to put yourself out there. If you're willing to try, then you can really learn from your mistakes and build off of that. And then you can really make that improvement. Because while you might be kind of funny and you're kind of nervous to go out there, really, you just got to do it. Whatever it is you want to do, just do it. And if you suck, you suck. And maybe you won't suck any much longer, but you have to try, and you just have to do it. And as comedy also has taught me, a lot about myself, like some things I don't want to do. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. That was the big thing. I wanted to cover football, do the whole sports center, the whole shebang. But what I realized is you have to pay your dues when you do that. You have to go through some menial tasks before you can get to the more glamorous stuff. And I think menial is really illustrated by the people that have to do the play-by-play for the hot dog eating contests. These people have to make a bunch of people eating a ridiculous amount of hot dogs seem interesting. These people have to come up with a euphemism for when somebody vomits. And I was watching one of these the other day, and the contestant, proceeded to lose his lunch, and I heard the announcer go, "Uh-oh, we have a reversal!" And they went play-by-play in the slow-mo, and he was on the telestrator explaining it, like why it happened, how it happened. And, it's just like, I couldn't make vomit sound interesting. I really couldn't. That's when I realized, maybe sports isn't for me, because I just have to deal with too much vomit. As a comedian, a lot of things are going to change when you're a student and a comedian, especially from your peers academically. When I was taking the SAT and the ACT, a common thing is, you get letters. You get emails from colleges. They got your name on the list. And so you get all these emails like, "Oh, check out our school. Oh, look at our school." I got those emails, but I also got emails from clown colleges. And talk about your safety school, right? But what's interesting to me about, a clown college, with your standard college letter, you're going to get a letter that says something, "Oh, you would have a great future if you came here. You'd do awesome if you decided to come." And then a clown college letter is more along the lines of like, "Oh, you'd be really good at juggling, maybe." But it piqued my interest enough, so I decided, I'm going to take a look at this. So, I looked at how you apply to a clown college. And how you apply at a clown college is you send in an audition tape of yourself doing, clown things. And I've never done clown things in my life. So I looked at your standard college application process, SAT, ACT, extracurriculars, whatever, and then your clown college process of doing clown things, something I'd never done before. And I was trying to figure out which one would be harder to get into at this point in my life. But so I think what they have to do, this is my little learning thing, they've got to combine these application processes together, okay? Because I might not make it into Harvard on my academics, but if they let me unicycle through a hoop of fire or something, I'd at least have a shot. And what I really want to leave you with is not what comedy was meant for me, but like what it taught about me for learning, you learn every day, and that's what's so important, that you have to keep trying and keep improving, because I just graduated from high school last week. I'm off to college in the fall. Thank you. So I don't know if comedy is in my future. I wish it was, but I can't say that for sure. But what I can say is that these lessons that I've learned from learning through comedy and from bringing that into my classroom environment is something that I'm going to keep with me for the rest of my life, regardless of there's humor involved in it or if it is completely and totally humorless. So thank you for your time, and have a good day.